Moses Itauma.
Dillian Whyte is looking lean. I like what I'm seeing from Dillian Whyte. It's making me actually think about things. My perception originally of this fight was Dillian Whyte based upon what we've seen in his last two, where he's looked slow, fleshy, and just not interested. Man's looking interested in recent clips.
He knows he's been sent over there, lamb to the slaughter.
Yep.
And it's like, they think this little kid's gonna just ice me. No. That's exactly it, right? So he must, and because of who he is, Dillian Whyte's a road man.
Yeah.
He must hear this. Forget the boxing side of things. Like, you know, like, this is gonna sound so stupid, yeah? If you are a bit of a bad boy on the road, yeah, and you're, 37?
Yeah.
You think you're accepting walking past a bunch of 21-year-olds and one of those 21-year-olds calls you out to a fight, that you're gonna duck and run? So he's probably looking at Moses. He's not even looking at it from a boxing point of view. He's looking at it from a man to kid point of view. Like, you're a kid.
To be fair, like I had 11 fights with Dillian. We got to world number 1, and so I know Dillian really, really well. I don't like that fight for him. I never thought it'd be a step up for someone. He won't like me saying that. It's just my emotional investment that was in him. But you know, he's done very well, Dillian, and he deserves a big payday. I'm sure. I'm hoping he's getting that. Listen, he's got the experience to upset the apple cart, Dillian. He has. But what's his name? Who's he fighting?
Moses Itauma.
Moses, I beg your pardon. Moses is a serious, responsive operator, and man can pick his punches well. So yeah.
Moses is going to be a heavy favourite, but how much of a jump in class and pedigree is this from his previous fight?
Well, it's such a big jump because, you know, Dillian's not an idiot, isn't he? He fancies the fight. This is a big jump for him. He's done everything up to now that's been asked of him, but there's that question mark about what happens if he goes into the later rounds. I mean, he has gone the distance once, but I'm talking about with somebody who doesn't fiddle around, somebody who actually would like to get him in the latter rounds and is capable of knocking people over. You know, he's a puncher. You've seen him do it, and he's done it with world-class fighters.
Moses Itauma attacked by boxing pros, and here's Frank Warren subtly planting seeds of doubt, talking up Dillian's so-called danger while questioning Moses's untested chin. But let's be honest, Dillian's power isn't the monster it once was, and Moses's speed, reflexes, and ferocity will expose that from the opening bell. This isn't a tough fight for Moses, it's his stage to dismantle an aging name.
What is your forecast for this fight?
I think he's going to be in a tough fight. I know he's got the punch power to hurt and stop Dillian Whyte, but I also know that Dillian Whyte also has the punch power to cause damage. And the one thing with Moses at the moment is that's not been tested. So we'll see.
But do you think are you still a bit tough fight? But you expect him to stop him?
I expect him. I believe he will win the fight. I believe he'll win the fight. How he wins it, we'll see. For me.
Now Adela Depot is out here, making it sound like Dillian just needs to feel ready, and the win is his. That's not confidence, that's delusion. You don't beat a hungry, undefeated 20-year-old by talking about how ready you feel after years of inactivity. Moses isn't coming for a friendly spar. He's coming to close the curtain on Dillian's career.
And I said, buddy, do you have any say? You've worked with Dillian a long time now. When Dillian gets a fight like Moses Itauma, do you have any say in it? Do you say like, nope? Like, and he's like, no, I asked Dillian, are you ready for this? And if he says yes, then we train him. Right. And he says the way in which Dillian said, yeah, I'm ready for it. Like, I want to do this.
Even Tyson Fury's compliments come wrapped in warnings about Dillian's power. Yes, Dillian can still land a shot, but those same big swings are exactly what a sharp, fresh fighter like Moses will read and counter. Step up or not, the timing is perfect. Moses is rising, Dillian is rusting, and that's a mismatch in the making.
For Moses, I think it's a very good time to fight Dillian. He's had a couple of years out the ring. But, you know, make no mistakes, Dillian Whyte is a massive puncher. To head and body. I know he's taking it very serious. I'm speaking to Ty Mitchell, who's in training camp with him, and looking forward to the fight. You know, it's a big step up for Moses because he hasn't really fought anybody on Dillian's level, the old Dillian, it was a couple of years ago.
And then Frank Warren doubled down, still trying to paint Dillian as some unstoppable force. Here Frank goes again, hyping Dillian's ability to knock people over like it's 2018. The reality? World-class fighters have also knocked Dillian over and kept him there. This isn't about surviving late rounds, it's about whether Dillian can survive the early storm Moses will bring. My bet, he will.
I'm talking about with somebody who doesn't fiddle around, somebody who actually would like to get him in the latter rounds and is capable of knocking people over. You know, he's a puncher, you've seen him do it, and he's done it with world-class fighters.
McCart admits the truth without even meaning to. This fight is happening because Dillian needs the payday, not because he's the better man. If Dillian was still a genuine contender, he wouldn't be chasing a 20-year-old rising star for a check. This test is just the start of Moses proving the old guard has no answers for him.
I mean, I like the fight. The reason being is because Moses Itauma, we've been saying now, is that guy. He needs that test, he needs that step up. I think Dillian Whyte is that guy. Dillian Whyte's probably found it hard now to get that big fight. He's probably said, I'll fight Moses Itauma if you give me X amount of money. And that's probably why this fight's getting made. But Dillian Whyte's...
And then came Adam Smith, still questioning whether Moses is truly ready for Dillian's challenge. Now Adam Smith joins the chorus, praising Moses with one hand, while snatching the credit away with the other. Too much for him at this stage? That's the kind of dismissive talk that fuels a young fighter's hunger. The so-called experts keep forgetting that Dillian's too much was already handled, and badly, by men far less explosive than Moses. At just 20, Moses has the reflexes, power, and sharpness that a ring-rusted heavyweight like Dillian can't match. This isn't a step too soon, it's a perfectly timed dismantling in the making. Adam might want to see the fight, but what he's gonna see is Dillian being humbled in front of the world.
Included in that, I think he's very, very good, Moses Itauma. So some people might say he'll get rid of Dillian Whyte like he has the others. Maybe not. Maybe Dillian's too much for him at this stage, which is why it's.
Here's Dillian Whyte trying to sound like a master tactician. More punches and strategy are fine in theory, but the reality is Dillian's timing has been fading for years. Against Moses, there's no luxury to slowly set traps. The younger man will dictate the pace from the first bell. Dillian talks about setting up shots, but his last few fights showed he gets set up himself when pressure mounts. Moses isn't going to stand still and admire his work. He'll be in Dillian's face, making every second uncomfortable. If Dillian really thinks a few tweaks in training camp can bridge the gap, he's walking into the most brutal lesson of his career.
There's a lot more punches than that, and I have a lot more punches than that. So, I'm not just focusing on one punch. I'm focusing more on strategy and getting to the strategic position to learn what we're learning. It's softball, so you can't just walk up to him and learn left hook and then the same like you do on other people. So you have to set it up and timing and stuff. So yeah, I've just been working more on that.
Simon Jordan's assessment reveals exactly what the boxing insiders really believe. This isn't a fight they see as dangerous for Moses. They expect Dillian to maybe stretch it a few rounds, but ultimately, they know he's not a threat, and yet they still can't help framing it as some big test for Moses, as if he hasn't already outclassed seasoned pros in the gym and under the lights. The truth is, this matchup was made because the timing is perfect. Moses is ascending, Dillian is declining, and the outcome is almost inevitable. The only questions this fight will answer are how quickly Moses adapts to a slower, predictable opponent, and how much punishment Dillian can endure before the referee steps in.
But it'll be fascinating to see how Moses goes against Dillian. I don't think they put him in against Dillian Whyte if they think there's real jeopardy for them. I think they might get a few rounds and get asked a few more questions than possibly they've been asked by Marius Wack and Dempsey McKean.
From there, the talk shifted to Dillian needing to dig deep and channel his old self if he's to have any hope at all. A day's analysis is telling. For Dillian to have a chance, he has to somehow dig up a version of himself that doesn't exist anymore. The old school Dillian was reckless, unpredictable, and willing to brawl, but that same style also got him knocked out cold by better prepared opponents. Moses isn't a 20-year-old in awe of Dillian's past antics. He's a new breed, built for precision and control. Trying to win outside the ring with mind games won't rattle someone who's been competing at the highest level of amateur and pro boxing since his teens. Dillian's problem is simple. Even if he could find that old version of himself, Moses is too sharp, too young, and too relentless for it to work.
And we need to almost see the old school Dillian Whyte who, wasn't afraid of anyone, would put it on anyone, because Moses is still only 20. And I almost feel like if Dillian needs a path to victory, it might start from outside the ring first, and then we'll see. Because there would have been a time when Moses has grown up and he's watching Dillian Whyte.
Tyson Fury, while respectful of Moses, still can't resist framing this as a question of how much Dillian has left. The truth? That's already the problem. The conversation isn't about whether Dillian is at his peak, it's about whether he's still functional at all. Tyson's right about one thing. Moses is like a sponge. Every round, every spar, every high-pressure moment, he soaks it in and turns it into fuel. This fight isn't about too early for Moses, it's about whether Dillian can cope with a fighter who learns in real time and adjusts on the fly. When a young fighter with that mindset smells weakness, the end comes fast.
It's going to be interesting to see how much that Dillian Whyte has left, and could this be potential? I think it does have the potential to do what Martin McCauley did to Jared Anderson. Maybe it's too early, or maybe he passes with flying colours, and that's why you got to watch it and find out. But one thing I will say about Moses is he's a very good fighter, good little boxer, good puncher, and a lovely kid as well. It's like a sponge.
Johnny Nelson tries to sell this as Dillian's trademark toughness, but the most important line slips out at the end. He might be a gatekeeper right now. That's the reality the rest of them dance around. Dillian's role in boxing today is to test up-and-comers, not to dominate them. And Moses isn't just another prospect. He's the future face of the heavyweight division. Gatekeepers don't beat fighters like Moses. They get beaten convincingly and end up as a highlight on the road to a title shot. If Dillian's biggest selling point is that he likes a fight, he's in for a rough night against someone who loves winning far more.
We will be forever changing until that new star establishes himself. So we'll just wait and see, but it's exciting.
What do you make of Itauma versus Dillian Whyte?
It's a good fight. Dillian likes to fight. He'll have to tear up. Yeah. You know, you can't test this man to go hunters. You know, he'll fight anybody and everybody. So with Dillian doing that, you think, you know what? You know, it's a good fight, good testing fight, and he might be a gatekeeper right now.
From there, the talk shifted to an even bigger perspective, just how elite Moses might become in the years ahead. Tyson's words about elite heavyweights and constant movement hit directly at why Dillian Whyte will be in trouble. Fighters who are forced to move and react without rest eventually slow down, and once that happens, they're easy prey. Moses, even at just 20, already fights with that kind of fluidity and work rate. He's not gonna stand still and give Dillian the chance to set his feet for those big punches. He'll be circling, feinting, jabbing, and making Dillian chase shadows. That's exactly how you drain the tank of an older heavyweight. Dillian has always looked best when his opponents stand in front of him and trade, but when they force him to move, his power disappears, his timing fades, and his defense opens up. If Moses applies that blueprint, the fight could look less like a test and more like a dismantling.
I think he's one of the best of all time. I really do. I think he's one of the best heavyweights of all time. And his movement is so different. One of the things that was interesting, where they were talking about the fight, and AJ Tony Bellows was talking about when he fought him, and AJ was saying that when he fought him, it was the most exhausted he's ever been, because he's always moving. There's no rest with him.
Bellows' take is straightforward and brutally honest. Fighters who can adapt their weight and style for a single opponent are operating on another level. That's what separates future champions from contenders, and it's why the constant talk about Dillian's experience feels outdated. Moses isn't walking into this fight hoping his usual style works. He's customized his preparation specifically to neutralize Dillian's strengths. That means refining his speed to counter those looping hooks, adjusting his power to keep Dillian honest, and preparing his gas tank to push the pace for as long as the fight lasts. For a young fighter to have that level of discipline is rare, and for an older fighter to face it is dangerous. Dillian's best chance is to drag Moses into a brawl, but against someone who's tailored his game plan to avoid exactly that, it's a losing formula before the first bell rings.
Never will. There's no one who's going to beat him. I just think technically, physically now, he's at the weight and he's adapted and he's adjusted. I mean, he's even adjusted and adapted his weight for this fight individually. I mean, he put on how much weight and slowed his actual feet down because Daniel Dubois' feet were slow.
We're now at the point where it's impossible to ignore what's truly at stake. This isn't just a fight, it's a statement. For Moses Itauma, beating Dillian Whyte isn't about the payday or the headline. It's about taking out a name that once sat among the division's most dangerous. For Dillian, this is a last stand, a chance to prove he's still relevant against a fighter the sport sees as its future. That's why the buildup has been so heated, why boxing pros have been lining up with their opinions, some hyping Dillian's experience, others warning of Moses' rapid rise, but all the words in the world won't matter once that bell rings. One man is on the way up, the other is fighting to stop the fall. If Moses wins, he doesn't just pass the test, he sends a warning to the entire heavyweight division. It's a shortcut to bigger fights, bigger purses, and the kind of spotlight most fighters spend a decade chasing. If Dillian shocks the world, it rewrites the narrative and breathes life back into a career many believe is on its last leg. But here's the truth, mental sharpness, hunger, and youth are all on Moses' side. Dillian's betting on his power to change the fight in one shot. Moses is betting on everything else to make sure that shot never lands. Are you backing Moses Itauma to dominate, or do you see Dillian Whyte pulling off the upset? Drop your predictions in the comments.